out to our country, and you whispered to those in pain, now you belong to heaven, and the stars spelled out your name. And it seems to me you lived your life like a candle in the wind, never fading with the sunset when the rain set in. And your footsteps will always fall here along England's greenest hills. Your candles burned out long before your legend ever will.
Oh, how much did we love her? A lot, didn't we? We loved her a lot. Anyway, if you didn't, this isn't the video for you. This is for people that did love her and that still want to hear of her. Princess Diana, certainly one of my heroines, absolutely. Always has been, always will be. And her energy started to come around me a while back. And I think I might have mentioned her in a few videos. But really, over the last week in particular, her energy's been so strong that I just felt I wanted to do a video completely just dedicated to her energy. And maybe it's completely perfect right now. I'm recording this on October the 30th, 2018, just as I'm getting ready to go out to New York to run a couple of different courses, one on Mary Magdalene, which links into the divine feminine energy, which Diana held so beautifully, and also some work linking to the 1111 gateway. Well, 1111 feels as though this year is triggering an explosion of the divine feminine energy onto this planet. And maybe this is all part of why she wants to come through now. I don't know. I wonder how many of us remember that moment when we found out that she had died. I certainly remember the moment when I found out she had died. I found out a couple of days afterwards because I was on holiday and we were in a little remote villa in Spain and there was no TV. It was before I had a mobile phone with internet on it. And I remember walking past a newsstand and seeing the paper. And I couldn't believe it. And I went to watch her funeral in a Spanish bar. And everyone was in floods of tears. I think I cried for about a week. Relentlessly. Sobbed my heart out, as did many of you I know that are watching this. Why do we identify with her so? Many reasons. But the truth is that her energy feels as though it's still around. I'm not the only one that's picking it up. Many other channels are picking it up too. And indeed, I asked for questions to ask of her because she's very here. She's been with me, particularly for the last 48 hours. Was having a chat with her last night, to be perfectly honest. So I have an idea of what's going to come through in this video, or at least some of the questions that are going to come that I want to ask her, and I know she's ready to answer. But one of the prerequisites to working with her energy seems to be just simply to have an open heart, to be coming from the right place. And that is the only prerequisite. So anybody that's watching this that really wants to link into her can do. She just asks that you come from a place of love, which is what she tried to do in this life that she's just experienced. So let me just put that down. I'm going to be looking at her whilst I am recording this. Let me put her up at my eye level so it's like she's in the room with me. Of course she is in the room with me, but it's just I want to look at her photograph. Got some beautiful roses here, which I just bought for this recording. because she was an English rose. She was the English rose, and they feel perfect. Right, we're going to dive straight into it. And the way this I know is going to work is that it's going to be like a conversation between the two of us. So I hope you can follow the way it all works. I'm going to spray the Rainbow Bridge spray, which is an Archangel Metatron spray. And he helps just to bring through those that are ready to speak to us from the other side of the veil. She was very particular that she wanted to come through today on October the 30th and not October the 31st, because she says that she's got a wicked sense of humour. I mean, a lot of people knew that about her in life. She really liked to have a laugh. And she's laughing as she's saying this. And she's saying, because enough people thought I was a witch when I was alive. Don't do it on Halloween. So we're doing it on the 30th. 30th of October 2018, just for the record. Okay, let's just see firstly what she wants to say. The first thing she wants to say is to thank everybody for the huge quantity of flowers that were left in the wake of her death. She is, when she looks back, she says, to the time of her passing, there is, of course, still some raw sadness at having particularly had to leave her two sons. And so she says she doesn't look back too much, but when she does, like she's being asked to right now by us, because she knows we're looking back and some of the questions allude back to the past, she says, even though she is the other side of the veil where there is a huge degree of understanding of everything at higher level and love and healing that has taken place, there is still a longing within her heart for the physical touch of her son's presence. And so to leave them was very hard, she says, but it was always part of the agreement and contract that I had coming down to earth. And I actually was very lucky to have held them for as long as I did. I'm going really cold as I say that, really cold. So there is just this enormous love for her sons and this sadness that comes through from her when she looks back at the time when she had to first leave them. Severing that cord was very difficult. Which is why it had to take place away from the UK, she says. I needed to geographically be apart from them at that time to even be able to begin to pass. It had to be in a different country. For some reason, that seems to be important to her, that it would have been even harder to have left them if she was here in the UK with them also present in the UK. They were separated by country when she died. I think they were in Scotland and she was in France. So the ocean between them was almost symbolic of the veil that would be between them after what happened in Paris. And she is still very sad about it, but she's wanting to thank everybody for the flowers and the love that they gave to her at that time, because she says not only did they nourish her and help her with her transition hugely, she said they also helped her sons, because she says you couldn't have stood in front of those flowers. And she said, I did stand in front of the flowers. I was there in the crowds with the people and not have felt the love that was within every single petal. Every single petal. She says it was completely and utterly overwhelming. And she thanks you from the bottom of her heart. She says, I knew I was loved when I was alive, but she said it had become tainted somewhat by the level of adulation which had got out of hand and was uncontained, and had become scary in places. And she's alluding to the chasing of her, which started innocently enough, she's saying, but became a nightmare from which I could not escape. Not being able to go anywhere without the constant attention, flash of the photograph bulb, and pressure to be what people expected me to be. If I had only known that actually all they wanted me to be was me, I would have perhaps been able to relax more. I paused the camera there because I thought I heard somebody crying outside my door, my daughter, and actually she was giggling. I had to just go and check. And Diana's just smiling at me and she's saying, yes, what a fine line it is between joy and sadness in life. What a fine line it is. Anyway, okay, let's get back to Diana. She's saying it's fine that you had to go and check your child. She said, I would have done the same. She says, any mother would have done that. Okay. What else, Diana? Let's just see what else wants to come through before I ask any questions of you. Okay, now she's saying I'm ready for the questions. All right, let's go to the questions. I asked for questions yesterday evening on YouTube and Facebook, and I've got a lot. I've got far too many. I'm not going to be able to cover them all. So we're just going to go with what feels particularly relevant. And I've highlighted some already that I felt I wanted to ask her. And okay, this is the first one that I thought was a really good question for you, Diana. Okay, from Michelle Ambergay. And Michelle says, I've always felt that Princess Diana was angelic. Did she come here as a being of the angelic realms? If so, which one? She's saying in response to that, because I already asked her this last night, she's saying that she wouldn't have regarded herself in that way. And indeed, a lot of what she was very interested in, the mystical realms is what she's calling them, the mystical realms. In terms of the angelic realms, she's saying she didn't have a huge amount of knowledge, but she knows now, what she knows now is that they were with her through all of her incarnation. The ones that she knows were particularly linked into her work and her life. In terms of her work, Archangel Raphael comes through very strongly, the green ray, which is also linked into the energy of the heart and opening up and healing the heart. And she's also saying Gabriel guided me a lot through my life. So Archangel Gabriel and Archangel Raphael in particular were the two that, looking back, she now realises had always been around her. She's saying I often didn't listen to them though. She's saying I was a hard pupil for them because I was too caught up at times in my head, even though I was all about the heart, because she was all about the heart. She also battled with her head and her mind a lot of the time as well. There was always that constant battle between insecurities, doubts, worries, and problems, large problems as well. And then what her heart would say to her in response to that. So Raphael and Gabriel are the two angels in particular that feel strongly around her. I did ask her about Metatron last night and didn't get very far, so I'm just going to ask her again. It's just my own little question. So what about Metatron? She's saying I wouldn't have listened. And She's laughing. She's laughing. She's saying I was too headstrong. I wanted things too much my own way, and she's saying I didn't understand his energy because I was surrounded by a court of people who were trying to instruct me, control me, and structure my life so that I had very little freedom. And what I did not understand about the Metatron energy was that the structure that I felt with him was actually to help me, not hinder me. It wasn't another layer of bureaucracy and earthbound control. It was more, it would have helped me to have listened more to him. It would have helped me to have listened more to all of them. It would have helped me more to have listened also to my own higher self. And there is part of me that is sad that I didn't always do that. But I didn't have an ordinary life. So please forgive me that. Okay. A question here from White Dragon Flame, saying I watched a documentary on her last night. She was such a brave soul, choosing her life, as in many ways it was so hard. Can you ask her what the biggest soul lessons were that she learned and how she was so brave, and is she okay now? She's saying, you think I'm brave? You think I was brave? I don't feel I was brave. She's saying, I suppose looking back now I was, but I certainly never felt that at the time. I felt very much like a child, having to learn the whole time and often getting it wrong, and often being told that I was getting it wrong also, even in my adult life. Even when I was feted as one of the world's most prominent women, I still felt that I was getting it wrong a lot of the time. So bravery is not something that I would have attributed towards myself when alive, but I do now see that it took a huge degree of guts to come and live that life. What were the lessons? What were the lessons that you felt that you particularly learnt in that lifetime? What were the lessons that you felt that you particularly learnt in that lifetime, Diana? She's quite self-deprecating, even in spirit. That's why I'm struggling to answer the question on her behalf, because I can feel what she actually wants to talk to me about is what she felt she didn't learn or didn't do as well as she could, which isn't actually the question. Because what she's coming back at me with is she feels that it was a lifetime which was very much linked into forgiveness, and she feels as though she couldn't always reach that level of forgiveness that she knows now would have been better for her and everybody if she could have achieved it. But hey, I was human, she says. I'm going to repeat the question to you. What were the biggest soul lessons that you feel you learned? She's alluding to the fact of having been in a position of greatness and plenty, but yet having to remember humbleness. Feels as though she's one of these people that was, and this is going to apply to many of you that are watching, that it's like you're born into a family where you feel you don't fit. This was one of the things for her. It's like she was born into a family where she felt she didn't fit. Doesn't mean that she didn't love them, but it's as though she was born into one of the, most aristocratic families in the United Kingdom with a huge heritage going back generations. A family of wealth, a family of prominence, a family of status. And of course, she had all of that. It was her birthright. But yet at heart and at soul level, there was this humbleness, and she was much more comfortable on the street helping somebody, or in the hospital ward, or getting down to the level of the child, than actually sitting with the jewels and the gowns. She says, everybody remembers my gowns. Everybody remembers my gowns and my jewels. She's laughing and saying they're even on show. And I'm being shown, and I've not seen it myself, but I know what she's alluding to. She's talking about her dresses in Kensington Palace. And she's saying it almost feels quite ghoulish for me to see them now without a body within them. She's saying it was, but in a way she's saying how perfect is that also, because she feels as though there's still a hangover almost of, for a lot of people it was actually about the dresses and the jewels and the trappings and the fairy tale. And she said it wasn't a fairy tale. She said, I didn't really care about the jewels and the finery and the fancy bits. It was the moments of humbleness and normalness and ordinariness that actually I longed for. And in terms of soul lesson, in terms of duality, those two extremes of fine dining and being at the top of society and expected to perform that role, and she did. But then this other side of her, which was just very ordinary and just really wanting to sit on the sofa with a bag of crisps, watching TV, listening to the music. She's talking about the music that she liked. That was really who she was. So for her, part of her lesson was about trying to come to terms with these two different sides of her. And she's saying, I'm not sure I always succeeded. She's very hard on herself, even now. And she has been through much healing upon the other side, she's telling me. She's she's making me laugh. She's saying, I'm still a work in progress, like many of us. But I'm getting there. I'm stronger than I was. I'm certainly happier than I was. I want people to know that I'm happy. I am at peace. But I'm still working quite hard. One question that came in was from, let me just find the lady's name, Debbie Ryan. Debbie asked, as Mother Teresa passed so close to Diana's passing, has she and Diana been working together? Now, Diana's already answered this for me because I tuned into this last night. And what she's saying to me is that Mother Teresa is still working with people in extreme poverty, and what Diana is summing up in our language, she's giving it in terms of our language, base chakra issues. So it's to do with people who have no food, no shelter, no security, and who are ill, okay? Hungry, cold, and without shelter. Very much like she did when she was in the slums in Calcutta. So she's working primarily with the base chakra healing that is needed upon our planet, wherever that is needed, within the individual and within society. And she's one of many that are helping with that. And she's chosen to stay in that groove because it's what she understands, because she incarnated and she experienced it. She tasted it, she understands it, she knows it. Diana is saying, again, because of this conflict in her lifetime between having so much it's not that she doesn't understand and try to help people that are in that position, but she feels she's better suited behind the veil to helping people more with issues to do with the heart. She's talking about heartbreak, relationship, and also issues to do with the sacral chakra, to do with trauma and shock and hurt and abuse, and also issues to do with the mind. She's very much wanting to talk about mental health. Okay, so for her work is linked into mental health, the mind, linked into the heart, and linked into the sacral chakra. Mother Teresa feels like she's working more on the base chakra. She's saying, but of course there is no real separation in the higher realms. She's saying that in many ways we are closer to each other than we were when we were alive on Earth, because there are less air miles between us. She's smiling. She's saying there are less air miles between us. She's saying here it's a case of clicking your fingers, and it's almost as though the person that you wish to be working with or alongside you in any one moment is there in an instant. You don't have to get on a plane to see them. They are there literally within a moment of calling or thinking of them. She's saying telepathy and other forms of communication are used this side of the veil where we are. There was a little bit of banter going back and forth between Mother Teresa and Princess Diana in terms of it's as though Diana was wanting to say to Mother Teresa that she is a mentor to her, and Mother Teresa was coming back to Diana and saying, you are more than my equal. Okay, so again it's this energy of quite self-deprecating, like I'm not as good as you, and Mother Teresa's coming back saying, yes you are, look at the impact that you made. I made an impact in different parts of the world. You made just as big an impact, Diana. And it's like, I don't know whether she ever did used to wave her finger, but I'm wanting to do that. It's like, you know, it's like Mother Teresa saying, you made just as much of an impact. I think she was quite a small lady, wasn't she? She was quite a small lady, Mother Teresa, and Princess Diana was very tall. And so it's funny because I'm just seeing Mother Teresa here, and it's like she's like wagging her finger, this small little lady, and it's like, but she's got real presence. Oh, and I'm realising now, I was just driving home about an hour and a half ago, and I was driving down a busy road, and the car in front of me stopped. It was quite a lot of traffic, but it made a point of stopping where there wasn't a crossing, because this lady crossed the road. And I'm realising now that lady held the energy of Mother Teresa because she was tiny. I mean, she was like 4'8", if that, but she was also stooped over like that. And she was so stooped that she couldn't actually look up, but she had such presence. And it's like everybody on that road, obviously the cars had stopped, but everybody was just like, oh, I don't know. It was just like this moment where it's like compassion, but respect as well for this woman that was just there, very vulnerable, really, but with this core of strength. And I feel that is linked into the Mother Teresa energy as well. Diana, on the other hand, was very statuesque. There was a question here, which I was going to ask Diana, because I'm 5'10". I think Diana was my height, or maybe a little bit taller. And somebody says, who is it? They were asking about their height. Just trying to find your name so I can give your name. Oh yeah, Firefly. Firefly said to me, was she comfortable with her height? A tall girl asking. So I'm just going to ask her now. She's saying, of course. She's saying, of course. Yeah, there's no problem with that, she's saying. I didn't have a problem with that at all. Yeah, she's waving the question away, and she's talking about the heels. She enjoyed wearing the heels. Something I've shied away from, has to be said. Okay, let's go to another question now. Let's see what we've got here. Okay, are there any important messages she would like the world to know now? That's from L. Hill. Are there any important messages she would like the world to know? That it's not, okay, she's coming through quite strongly straight away. I'm going to put a photograph up so you can look at her face for a little bit. She is saying it's not as dark as you think it is, okay? She is fully aware of the difficulties upon this planet at the moment, and the challenges and the darkness that is around us. and she's picking up on the fear as well. There's a lot of fear, but she's saying, if you could only see what I can see, which is this dawning of new light, which is coming into your planet. She's saying the denser energies are real, but she's saying what I'm being shown, she's showing me this image of, it's like a morning pond, and it's as though, you know, when steam rises off a pond, basically. It's like I'm being shown evaporation, is the word, thank you. Evaporation of dense matter and dense energy that is being lifted up. And she's saying that as it's being lifted up, we're seeing it. It's like where it was hidden before, you're actually now, it's being brought up into the light. And she's saying, I understand that can feel unsettling because you haven't been able to see it before. It's been at the bottom of the pond, but it's coming up, and it won't stay for very long. She's not talking about the absence of darkness on our planet, because, you know, we are still a planet of duality, but she's saying this real heaviness, which we have right now. It's like everywhere we turn, we're just seeing problems, issues, difficulties, sadness. She's saying there is a lot of it. She said it will start to lessen as we, over the next couple of years, she's talking about in particular. Okay. She's talking about William. She's talking about the time that William ascends to the throne. And she's saying he's going to bring in a lot of light. Her face has just lit up. Her face is just lit up when she's talking about William. She doesn't want to talk too much about, I will just say this now, because I'm not going to even ask her, because I already know it's off limits. She does not want to talk, certainly today, about the relationship of, you know, marriages, you know, William and Kate, or Meghan and Harry. She's saying that's none of our business. She's being really quite like a mother would. So it's none of your business. She's very protective of their privacy, and she's very she's saying it's sacred. She's saying the connection that she has now with her sons is a very sacred one, and it was very public before. She's saying everybody's seen some of the most private moments of my life with my children, from not actually physically giving birth, but, you know, from the moment of leaving the hospital to the first day at school to graduation to all of it. And she's saying, I actually quite treasure this time now, which is sacred and private between us. And so she's saying, although I will talk about my sons, I won't talk about their relationships, because that is not fair. And she's saying, what I feel about that is between them and me. And they know that, and they can feel me around them, and I am around both of them. She's saying all the time. She's saying, actually, she's making a joke here. She's saying I'm a bit like a fly. They have to swat me away, because it's like, oh, they can feel her energy the whole time. But she's talking about William in terms of ascending to the throne, and she's saying it's okay to talk about that, because that's his birthright, and I always knew that. I knew that when I birthed him. And she's saying, I mean, she's there for all of the pivotal moments of his life, as she is, I'm sure, Harry's. But that moment of coronation, she said this to me before in another video. I can't remember when it came through, but I remember saying this before, and she's reminding me of it. She's saying the moment of his coronation, she's saying there is a download of divine feminine energy that comes at that moment. She's saying the moment that the crown gets put upon his head is also for me as well. And she's saying that's not taking anything away from Kate, who will make a beautiful queen. But she's saying, as the mother of the future king, she's not talking about Charles, that the mother of the future king, she's saying when the crown goes down upon his head, it also is linked into my energy. And my energy is linked into the divine feminine, and it will flow down through him. And she's saying, she's saying he's going to be in for a surprise. She means that in a nice way. She means that in a way that it's going to be very transformative for him. And she's saying people already love him, but they are really going to see the truth of what I know him to be and the beauty of who he is. She's having no time whatsoever for the naysayers with regard to either of her sons. Okay, so as far as she's concerned, they are of the light. They contain her bloodline, is what she's saying, and they contain her DNA, and they contain her codes. And she's saying her codes came through pure, even though the life that she led wasn't always pure, and even though she made many mistakes. She's saying what she carried in this lifetime that so many people resonated with and responded to did not die with her. It stayed within her sons. Both of them have it, and that is the most important part. Okay. Let's go to another question. Let's just see what we've got here. Oh, okay. Yeah, this is something she wanted to talk about. Actually, let's just do a more light-hearted question before I get to a more difficult one. Connie Klostermeyer. Dearest Diana, what would you have named a daughter on this side? Much love. Well, I've had the name Alice in my head all day, and it hasn't gone away. So I'm just going to say Alice is coming through very strongly. Whether she would have been allowed to have got away with Alice as a main name, I've no idea. I think, was there a Queen Alice? I mean, I'm actually being... Alice in Wonderland is coming to mind as well, because it's like Diana has this sense of humour. But she liked the name Alice, or she likes the name Alice, or there's a link to Alice. Make of that what you will. Okay, the more serious question now from Vida Phoenix. What would she share about her eating disorder and overcoming it? Okay. She's saying that she is very concerned about the proliferation of this in society at the moment, between young, it's got nothing to do with youth, but there are a lot of young men and women in particular that seem to have it, but she's not excluding anybody because of age. She knows that it takes no prisoners. Something like an eating disorder, she's saying, it has nothing to do with the class you come from, the country you come from, the age you are. But she is particularly concerned, I think, about people who are younger that are experiencing problems in this way, because she knows that what starts when it's younger, she's saying it can root itself if it starts to manifest at a young age, and then it's harder to heal from it. So let's just ask her then, what would she share about her eating disorder? She's saying, of course, it was the most enormous cry for help with me. She's saying that is not always the case for everybody. She's saying everybody has an individual reason for why they have a dysfunctional relationship with anything, be it food or anything else. But she's saying for me, it was intense sadness, desperation. She's also saying bitterness. Okay, so she's talking about herself here. This isn't about everybody else that's got an eating disorder. She's talking about herself. Desperation, complete and utter desperation. Wanting to make herself feel invisible, wanting to become invisible. Wanting to become invisible when you are the most visible woman on the planet. That is what my eating disorder was about. Also a reflection of the one that I loved wanting me to disappear. And she's saying that symbolically, okay? There was, we all know, she knows we know, huge problems within the marriage from a very early stage. And there was... Charles has quite a potent energy, she says. He's got quite a strong energy. He's got a very focused intent and doesn't always necessarily realise it either. She's showing me the tarot card, the Magician, okay? And the Magician card in the tarot is the person who has all of the different suits. You know, the cup, the sword. What else is there? The wand, and what's the one that I'm missing? You're all shouting at me now. But the point is, the Magician has all of the tools. He's the alchemist. And so it's almost as though Charles might just have had a thought in his head, like, oh, when things were difficult, like people do when they're having an argument, and you just think, oh, for God's sake, just get out of here. But it's like, because he has this almost like magical energy within him, or strong energy within him, it's almost like it was a bit like a spell isn't the right word, but it's like she was spellbound by it. She's saying it wasn't his fault though. She's saying it was, I have to take ownership of my own problems. But she's saying it was to do with invisibility, wanting to be, and the thing that was not possible for me in life was to be invisible. So in a weird way, not really weird at all, but not eating was all linked into trying to become unseen. And she says, I was very, very sad at that time. What do you else want to say about that time? Eating disorder. She would have healed a lot quicker if it hadn't been hidden. It was taboo. And she's saying this is true of a lot of mental health problems. Because they are hidden, because they are out of sight, it slows down the process of healing. Shame and shame. She was ashamed. She's saying nobody should be ashamed of any mental battle that they have, be it with food or anything else. She's saying times have changed since the 80s and 90s when this was happening, particularly the 80s. And a good job they have as well, she says. But still there is a lot of work to do. And she's trying to help to break down the walls of silence, she is saying, the walls of silence that create a lot of the enduring and continuing problems with mental health. The first step towards recovery is acknowledging the problem, talking about the problem, and then seeking help. And the latter two of those are all things that have to be done externally. You have to come out of the shadow, your own shadow. Okay. She's saying it's not the way to cope. She says, I tell them that. It's not the way to cope with it. There are better ways to cope with it. What would the better ways to cope with it be, Diana, then? Letting yourself out of your own prison. She's saying, I was in a gilded cage. I was in a prison of my choosing. I did choose it. I chose to marry into the family that I married into. And she's saying, I'm proud of myself that I eventually chose to be the bird that got out of the gilded cage. Took me a while though. She's encouraging anybody within prisons of their own making, circumstances, relationships, whatever it is, to know that the key is always within you, to release yourself from whatever it is that's troubling you. She's saying the eating behaviour or any other dysfunctional pattern is only the external reflection of what is internally wrong. Yeah. Show you my mug at this point. Lipstick on it. You see that? This was a big part of her problem. There we go. She was on the mug. 1981, Charles and Diana. I remember going into the shop to buy that. And the excitement and the posters in the window, my window. A day off school for the royal wedding. So much pressure upon her shoulders. Okay, let's go to another question. Let's see what we've got. Okay, this is a nice one. From Valerie Bolter. I'd like to ask her if she's still helping in the world at large as she did back then. Yes, she is. Especially with children in war zones. Thanks for bringing in our English Rose. Children in war zones, Diana. Okay, she's talking about trying to help the mothers of the children in the war zones. To sometimes have to make the difficult choice to move away from home that has become too dangerous, toxic, a war zone. Not that she isn't in communication with fathers as well, she is. But she's saying, I'm being drawn to Middle Eastern areas of the world in particular. Syria is where I'm being drawn, I feel. And it feels as though what she's saying to me is that the role of women within such families is very dominant, and what the female influence wants can dictate the family pattern. She's also saying that the men in such places, in these war zones, are so deflated and emotionally battered down that many are actually now incapable of being able to make the rational decisions to leave. They are traumatized. She's actually talking about, it's almost like PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. But the mothers, for whatever reason, are still able to be communicated with and got through to, is what she's saying. She's saying, of course, I'm with the children in the war zones, as are many others. She's saying, I'm also sending my own children in to help in that area. And she's saying, if they don't know it yet, she's saying, I'm on their back to go out and make a difference. I've no idea whether they already do or not, I don't know. She's talking about charitable work. She is very focused. I'm particularly being drawn to the Syrian situation. I'm sure there are many other places around the world as well, but that's where I'm being drawn to. places of genocide, and she's working with the mothers, is what I'm hearing. Okay. Let's move on to another question. Hi guys, it's me again. I don't think I've got much battery life left, and I'm also getting a bit tired, so I'm not going to do too much more on this video. There's just a couple of other questions that I'm going to ask in this video, and there are some that I'm not going to cover, and I will do in a part 2, probably towards the end of the year, if not before, because I have got a lot of work to do before I go to America next week. I just actually watched back what has already come through, and we're quite pleased with it. Because she's wanting me to say we are quite pleased with it. So the 2 areas, let's just bring her back into focus. Okay, Diana. She's wanting to talk about, well, it's a question actually from Michelle Rowe, which has triggered this. The question was, who was the real love of her life besides her 2 sons? And I am being drawn to want to talk about Hasnet Khan in particular. That's who she's drawing my attention to. It actually feels, some people don't like the expression twin flame, but it does feel a bit twin flame. Obviously they did not unite in this incarnation, but they're interesting. And she's asking me, she's actually saying, she's actually asked me just to look him up on Google. So I've just looked him up, Hasnet Khan, and he is, maybe he still is, I don't know, he certainly was, maybe he still is, he's a heart surgeon. I think he lived in Pakistan, is that right? Let's just bring up his details. Hasnet Khan, I'm sure he's Pakistan. Yeah, anyway, the point is, from a completely different culture to the UK. She says that she had become disenfranchised, that's not the right word, disenchanted. Disenchanted with men in her societal sphere, as it were. She was tired of that, and indeed wasn't satisfied by that, and satisfaction in terms of soul nourishment. She had a very strong bond with Hasnet Khan, and indeed, I think I'm right in saying this, that he is probably one of the only people not to have written about her, spoken about her. He has never betrayed her. He has been completely silent. He was a gentleman, she was saying to me. He was a gentleman, and he still is a gentleman. The difference in culture, the difference in age, just huge gulf between them really, but yet this bond. But also she's talking about the fact that she named herself the Queen of Hearts, wanting to be the queen of people's hearts, and her work was all about, and still is about, opening up the heart. And that's why she's coming forward so strongly right now at this time on the planet, because we have to find another way to answer the problems of the world, and they're not going to come through the mind, they're going to come through the heart. They're going to come through 5th dimensional qualities. Those are my words, not hers. Back to what she's saying though, what she's alluding to is the fact that she was the queen of people's hearts and still is about teaching that, and he is or was the person who actually physically went in and mended hearts. So that amazing synergy of energies between them. And she's saying that certainly she, I don't know whether he still does operations, but she's saying she has worked with him or through him. Her energy has come through him in terms of the work that he still does. and she's wanting people to know what a special man he is. And it's that the feeling that I'm getting from her more than anything is a feeling of pride when she thinks about him, not in a maternal sense or anything like that, in a sort of just there are good men upon this planet. That's why she's wanting to bring him to our attention. She's wanting us to realise there are some really good men upon this planet who don't operate from ego or aggression or hostility, but who just hold a very pure intention of what she's calling honour, integrity, and she's calling them old-fashioned values, but I know what she means by that. She's saying some things don't go out of fashion. Knowing how to just treat another human being, what not to do and what to do. He is of a very high caliber, is what she's saying, and she's very much, of all the men that were in her life, including Charles, the one that she's shining the spotlight onto is Hasnat Khan, as in a different league, a league all of his own, is what she is saying. But she's saying it wasn't meant to be, and but it still feels that they're in connection with each other. So death hasn't completely separated them. Okay. There was another question here, which I wanted to pick up on. I will just ask her about Charles, but I don't know how much is going to come through. It does feel like it's probably a whole other video in itself, but I know that you'll probably want me to ask her, so let's just see what she has to say about Charles at this moment in time, at this juncture. She's concerned for him. She's concerned for him. She's saying because what happened between them is now in the past, and the difficulties they had are in the past, and actually all that remains of their union is actually their two sons. She says, I have long healed from what happened between us. And she's showing me herself, not in terms of the throes of feeling, I don't know, passion or anything like that towards him, but it's a bit like fussing over him is what I'm feeling. It's like there's an energy where she's fussing over him a bit, and she's actually concerned for him at this time, because he is the father of my children. Why should that surprise anybody that I would still care about the father of my children, who are my legacy here on this planet? And I don't think I want to get too much into it, but she's talking about his health and issues to do with his health, and he's saying he wouldn't listen to me in life though, so he's certainly not going to listen to me in death. But it's almost as though there's a sense of frustration on her part, because there are things that she could suggest to help him, but it's like I daren't even go there. Okay, all right. She's saying the same thing that applied to what she just said about Hasnat Khan and having principles. She's saying I also have to now hold that and honour that. There were 3 people within my marriage when I was married to him. I now cannot become the 3rd person within his marriage to Camilla. She says I have to be better than that. So although I'm concerned for him and there is a degree of fussing around him, she can't get too involved in it. I mean, she's showing me his skin colour. He's very flushed, and his hands are very puffy, and there's just a there's a feeling of concern for his health. Let's just leave it at that, okay? Anything else you want to say about Charles? What a role he chose, she says. Everybody loves me, or everybody loved me, and everybody hated him at the time. She's saying, I never wanted them to hate him. She's talking about roles that people sign up to before incarnation. And she's saying, for me to have been and become who I was and to have lived the life that I did, Charles had to be within that. And what he wanted to say about his path. His path has been very difficult too. His life has not been an easy one. There is much that you do not see. She's not wanted to go too further into Charles at the moment. I'm going to pull a card for Charles though. I'm going to ask her just to bring one card through for Charles. She's saying he's been waiting so long to be king. But I'm almost getting this sense of when you've been waiting for something for such a long period of time, you almost forget the reason why you're even waiting in the first place. It sounds a slightly strange thing to say, but that's what I'm being told to say. It's like his life has been suspended. He's been in a state of suspension for so long. Charles, one card, Charles. Okay, well, I don't want to get too much into this, but this is the card of trickery. It's the Seven of Swords. Hiding. Somebody trying to get away with something, basically. The Seven of Swords shows somebody, they're a bit like the thief in the night. They're sort of trying to flee from something. It could well be what she's saying to me, the interpretation she wants me to bring forward, because there are other things to say maybe about this energy in another video. I'm not going to do it now because I'm getting tired. But what she's saying to me here is there's a part of him that you're never going to see, but actually would quite like. It's like he's been waiting in the wings for so long. Weirdly, when the opportunity presents himself to be on the throne, it's almost as though there's a part of him that would just quite like to flee from that whole situation, which I know doesn't really appear that is the case, because on the bottom of the pack is the King of Pentacles, which is what he is. You know, he's born for that role, to be the king of his domain. But there's a part of him here which is just like weirdly not wanting it. Maybe it's to do with his age, I don't know. Or maybe it's to do with some circumstance surrounding ascension to the throne. There's something it's not clear cut, basically. They're very weird cards to get together, those two. You know, here he is, the future king, but here we've got this figure that's just, it's like the thief in the night. Almost as though something comes in to take this away from him. Yeah. And then we've got the Queen of Swords was the next card. That's Camilla. No judgment. If Diana is the Queen of Cups, she would be, which is the Queen of Hearts. Camilla is the Queen of Swords. Okay, so the Queen of Swords can be quite ruthless. Knows what she wants, goes for it. Clear cut. Let's pull one more on Camilla. Can't resist. One more on Camilla. Diana, how do you feel on Camilla? That's a long book, she says. Yeah, it is a long book. How do you feel now on Camilla? How do you feel now with regard to Camilla? Do you know the word I'm hearing? Compassion. That's what I'm feeling from Diana. You won't read that in a newspaper. If you pick up a newspaper, what Diana's telling you is they will peddle all the old story. The old story was obviously linked into Diana's pain at what happened between Charles, Camilla and her, and feelings of fury, revenge, disappointment, betrayal, all of it. But she's saying, I've moved on from all of that. I've moved on from all of that. I've healed that. I have healed that, she's saying. I 100% can guarantee I have healed that beyond the veil. She's saying what I now feel is compassion. Because to actually feel into the energy of being Camilla, there is a lot of negativity expressed towards her. And that's not a nice position to be in, Diana is saying. And if we are to live in the era of the heart and love, we cannot hang on to old energies of resentment, blame, judgment. We have to be in an energy of forgiveness and compassion, including to those who have hurt us the most. I have compassion for her. One card for Camilla. Temperance. Yeah. And the Two of Cups. So, you know, her and Charles, Camilla and Charles, you know, whatever's going on in the relationship now, I don't know, none of our business really. But, you know, there is love. There has certainly been love. It is a love story, those two. And Diana knows that now. This was true love between these two. Now, what's faced for Camilla? Temperance, balance, patience. Okay. So that is that. Okay, I'm just going to end then with any final message that wants to come through. Let me just bring her lovely photograph up again. I'm just going to see if there's anything else. She's saying you're tired to me. It's like she's just got this beautiful maternal quality. It's like she's noticing that I'm tired, and she's saying it's okay. We've done enough for one session. She's saying don't worry about them. She's saying, you know, that's what I did in my life. She said I was always pandering to the crowd. She says I had to learn to look after myself. And she says, and I didn't do it particularly well. She's saying, so you now go and look after yourself. It's like she's giving me a bit of like a mum talk. That's what it feels like. And it's so weird because looking at that photograph, she's actually younger there in that photograph than I am now. So it's like, but she's obviously, has she got older in spirit? No, she hasn't. No. She's an old soul though, of course. She's a very old soul. So it's like she's saying to me, it's okay, go and rest now. And she's saying, we'll talk another time. And so we will. Thank you, Diana. And thank you everyone for watching this. It's been lovely. I hope you've enjoyed it. I will do a second video, absolutely, because we've only got through about 4 questions. And I think there's about 50 in all these pieces of paper, and there'll probably be more. So, and yes, I will do a video at some point on just looking at her death as well, because I know she knows it's a subject, you know, and she's smiling at me saying, yeah, I know, but it's like that is going to be for another time, and as well as anything else that wants to come through. But what wants to come through more than anything tonight is just her love, her support, and she's wanting you to know that she's still around. She's still, anybody that she touched in this life that had that innate connection with her, she's saying that heart connection is still between us. I can still help you. You can still call on me to help heal issues, particularly relating to the things we've talked about today. She's talking about mental health battles, eating behavioural problems, any form of abuse, heartache, relationship difficulty. She says, I'm here. She says, I'm one of many who are here on this planet now to be called on. And she says, I'm very willing and able to do that because I now am in a place where I am feeling much better, more whole, healed, happy. And she's showing me, it's like she's rolling up her sleeves and saying, right, come on, I'm ready to get to work and I'm here for you. She's saying, I always was here for you, but I'm here for you again now. I've had my period of rest, recuperation and healing. And she's saying, yeah, there were times when it was quite difficult and I had to really look at aspects of my own personality and things that I had done wrong also. She said, but I'm through it now and I'm back, I'm ready to serve. She's not talking about coming back immediately into incarnation. She's saying it is wrong to suggest that she's already back here, particularly in one of the children of her sons. She's saying, she's having a laugh. She's saying, well, they've dealt with me once in a lifetime. She says, I think that's probably enough. She says, although they loved me and I adored them, she said, I also could be quite a handful. And she's saying, actually, they just now need to carry on with their destinies. And she said, I do better cheering them on from this side of the veil. And I'm really happy to do so. So she's saying, no, I haven't incarnated back. I am still the other side of the veil, and it's where I can make the most difference at this moment in time. I send you lots of love. Okay, well, with thanks to the lovely Diana and thanking you, I shall say goodbye and I shall see you all soon. Much love, everyone. Bye-bye for now.